Will the August 14 Dune City Council meeting please come to order? It is 7 o'clock p.m. Mr. Hilton, could we please get a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Rebecca Reedy.
Here.
Council President J.B. Mills.
Here.
Councilor Richard Anderson. Here. Councilor Sheldon Meyer.
Present.
And Councilor Ed Scarborough. Here. And let the record show that Councilor Marie Sanders and Duke Wells are absent and excused.
Yes, thank you. Would everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda, councilors. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve this evening's agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right. Consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Move.
Second. Any questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 6, announcements. I'm pleased to announce the birth of Councilor Anderson's newest great-grandchild, and his name is Trey Mitchell. And congratulations, Councilor.
Thank you.
Yes, happy and healthy family there? Okay, all right. Born on Saturday, August 2nd. So we're now making it a tradition to announce grandchildren at the council meetings. Their first proper introduction. Okay. Announcement number 2. Volunteers are needed to fill 1 planning commission opening, 1 road commission, 1 water tester for Silkus Lake. And 1 Parks and Rec committee opening. Citizen Advisory Committee, CAC, members for ordinance number 203 review have been appointed by the Planning Commission. This is a 5-member committee. Dune City Artists of the Month are students from Sayusla High School, and we've toured around the room, and some very, very nice artwork from these young people. Final announcement, we wish our administrative assistant Linda Stevens happy birthday on August 3rd. We, however, will forego cake this evening at her request because she's not here. So that concludes the announcements. Mr. Hilton, do we have citizen input this evening?
No one signed up, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, at this time, it's my great pleasure to introduce our hard-working Ross Pizer. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. My name's Ross Pizer. I've been interning with Dune City since April on a, let me do this.
Oh.
That'll help. On a bicycle pedestrian needs assessment. And when I'm not interning here, I'm a master's student at the University of Oregon, studying community and regional planning. And before I went back to grad school, I have a short background in bicycle pedestrian work in New Orleans, Louisiana, but I came back to Oregon. I'm from Seattle, so not too far away. So came back to the Great Northwest. And with that, I intend tonight to present the needs assessment. We'll go over the process, starting with the overview and kind of building up to the recommendations and the next steps. And I intend to take 30 minutes or less and then leave 15 minutes for questions, discussion. And this is a condensed version of the full report, but it goes over all the important highlights. And I believe the council received in your packets the full report, and for any public, we will make it available for you as well. Should you like to see it, it's still, yes, it's kind of out of draft form now. So, moving on to the project overview, kind of zoom out first. Why are bicyclists and pedestrians important? So, like I said, I moved from Louisiana to a more progressive state of Oregon that has some policies in place, specifically the Oregon Transportation Planning Rule, which specifies that reducing automobile trips and encouraging use of other modes of transportation, public transit, bicycling, walking, and then stepping back, also big picture, bicycling and walking is healthy for both individuals and the environment. So those are a couple of reasons. And so how did Dune City arrive at the needs assessment? I just wanted to cite the Comprehensive Plan Transportation section, which has two policies. F8, the city shall encourage provisions to be made for pedestrian and bicycle access, and the city will develop a master transportation plan, which you have, that includes inventory of existing streets, bike and pedestrian ways and their conditions, and prioritizes needed improvements and estimates costs. And then also, as when I came out from my orientation, it was mentioned that heard some talk in the community about interest in bicycle pedestrian facilities. So really an opportunity, I see my job here is to come in as an outside consultant, essentially, to assess that community discussion and to evaluate that and make some recommendations. And so that got us to the needs assessment. Oh, and I just wanted to mention the Master Transportation Plan, there's a non-motorized element as well, called Beyond Roads, that talks about bicycle pedestrian facilities, and so this is kind of an extension of that as well. So the needs assessment, we decided it's to assess the need for development of pedestrian and bicycle facilities here in Dune City, and this includes public outreach and identification of specific bicycle and pedestrian facilities and their locations. So the timeline looked like this. I came out for an orientation in February, had a lovely orientation. The mayor and council members, road commission members had a great tour of the city and got to, this is my first time here, so kind of assess the current conditions really, and think about, discuss, what the community had said a little bit, and then really started the internship, the beginning of my spring term, academic term, which was the very last day of March, beginning of April. We put out a press release. It was really important through this whole process to keep the public involved, since, like we said, we're following up on some public discussion, and so we created an email list, and we're communicated with that list throughout the whole process. So that was the start of it. We started developing a community survey that was to assess the community sense on bicycle pedestrian facilities. I'll just refer to it as the survey from now on, it's a little easier. And we started gathering some information from Lane Council of Governments and other sources that I could supplement the community survey with some other facts as well. Then we opened the survey, and at the same time, so we decided on an online survey. I hope a lot of you received it, I know. And then I saw a number of you out at the Oregon Dunes Duathlon, and we did public outreach there. That was also an opportunity to take the survey hard copy, to provide the links, and to talk to the community face to face. We closed the survey, analyzed it, drafted the needs assessment you all received, and since then I've been following up on the next steps with Lane Council of Governments and my own research and working with Fred, and came out to present to the Road Commission last month, and then here I am in August presenting to the City Council and the public. So first, there's the current conditions. I broke it up into pros and cons here, but really, cons are just opportunities, as they could be, depends how you, spin it. But a couple pros that I noticed immediately were the parks, Honeyman State Park, Westlake County Park, Petersdorf and Bird Park, and that's a great asset in terms of walking and bicycling to those things. And I'll get into the survey. Respondents said similar things. There's signage in Honeyman here, bicycle pedestrian signage. This is just around the corner of Westlake. Signage for slow children at play and slower speed limits. And then this is, I guess, the opportunities on the bottom as I saw them. This is on Highway 101. You can barely see, but that's a cyclist on the shoulder. So, probably we'd categorize that cyclist in the fearless category, I'd say. They're pretty strong, and you probably wouldn't have your grandkids out. You wouldn't feel very safe bicycling with them on that shoulder, I wouldn't think. And then this being an issue of connectivity, I noticed, like here we are in Westlake, and to connect to other places north of Dune City, you need to go out onto Highway 101. So not the most encouraging necessarily of bicycle pedestrian access between Dune City. And then here, possible safety concerns, pedestrians walking in the shoulder without any kind of buffer or protection. But these are just kind of initial things that I saw with my outside lens, and really it'll be important showing the community outreach, because the community feels differently on things, and so that's why we do that. So moving right along to some of the research, which is important to take a look at to see trends. I'm studying urban planning, and it's all about looking at trends and how that can influence what you're studying, whether it's hazards, transportation, parks, etc. So a median age of 59.9 was important to the survey and to the types of facilities that we might want to see. Looked at the percent change across different age groups. It was highest in 65 plus at 36.3 and 123 people. And that was between the 2000 and 2010 census. Population forecast is for 366 more residents by 2035, and I should just thank Lane Council of Governments, LCOG, for providing some of this data as well to me. And that's the forecast is right on track with Lane County. That's 25% for 25 years, 1% per year. And then I also looked at crash data and inventory of roads. There was nothing really to highlight there. That was kind of just to get a sense of the high speed roads, and if there to see if there were some themes on the crashes, but there were not. So then public outreach was a big element of this whole process, and it, like I mentioned, included an online survey. And the survey was assessing bicycling and walking habits, where respondents would like to walk or bike, and what types of facilities would encourage respondents to walk and bicycle more often. The survey was emailed out May 1st and was closed 15 days later on the 16th. And a follow-up email reminder was sent in between then. It was sent to local businesses, local park contacts, and stakeholders, local leaders, community members, residents, and visitors. We totaled 94 individuals, separate individuals, and we asked everybody who received the survey to share it with neighbors, whoever they thought might be interested in taking the survey. So we ultimately yielded 39 responses. So out of the 94 individuals, that is a 41.5% response rate. So pretty good. And for just to compare it to some of my other natural hazards work I've done at the University of Oregon, transportation, especially bicycling, pedestrian transportation, this is a fairly high response rate for the community this size. Yeah, I'm in Madras, Oregon for natural hazards planning. We had a public meeting that I think had 10 people, and it was pretty heavily advertised. So it's just, I think it's a more tangible thing to talk about. So I was excited at 39, and a 41.5% response was enough to really analyze and have some good analysis for it. So then the second public outreach strategy was the in-person interactions at the second annual Oregon Dunes Duathlon. And like I said, we had hard copies of the survey there. We had 3 completed. I actually have those to give to Fred tonight to keep on file. I also handed out flyers with the links, and we kind of turned into like a listening station of sorts. I had my notebook and just talked to people, and we had a map there, and just gathered some good input and public outreach. So, and some fun photos. There's some of you might recognize some faces there. The mayor and Maury and Duke receiving their medal out in Sheldon there too. So then before I move on, I just have to acknowledge a couple of limitations to our strategies. Was not a statistically valid sample for the population size, and the online access is a potential issue. It was really, we decided in terms of my time and Fred's time, it made the most sense since I was working remotely from Eugene, and a mailed survey just didn't work out. But like I said, I think we addressed that with the public outreach at the triathlon, and then I think the responses we got, which I'm getting to next, yielded some good results for without a statistically valid sample. So before I get into it, I divided these into walking and bicycling results as I did in the report as well. So start with walking. 77% of respondents walked around Dune City. 47% of those respondents walk daily. 66% feel safe, said they feel safe to very safe walking around Dune City. That's really good. And then we asked about different types of facilities that would encourage walking or not encourage walking. And the clear winner was off-street paths and walkways, with 53% of respondents saying an off-street path would likely or very likely get them to walk more. And there were 16% unsure in the middle. Places that respondents said they'd like to walk included Honeyman State Park, Dunes National Recreation Area, and resorts in Westlake and North Beach. And I should say that a couple other facility types, sidewalks and neighborhood greenways, which I'll define in a moment, and better lighting, were kind of on the fence. So just to keep in mind that, perhaps with more education or certain areas, more information, those 3 facility types could move into the supported category. And I'll just define neighborhood greenways, or bicycle boulevards, they're also called, are low traffic volume streets that are kind of like a shared street, but they prioritize bicyclists or pedestrians a little more. So you might have some treatments that include speed bumps or diverters, things like that. So, moving on to bicycling. 49% of respondents said they never ride their bicycle. 83% ride for recreation versus commuting to work, for example. So that makes a lot of sense, recreation riders. 32% said they do not feel safe riding on the roads in Dune City. And then after being shown a number of different bicycle facility types, also the clear winner, it's same as walking, was the off-street path. 58% said off-street paths would likely or very likely get them to bicycle more. So that brings us to the main findings. Respondents walked more than they bicycle. Respondents felt safer walking than bicycling on the roads in Dune City. Off-street paths would encourage more people to walk and bicycle than the other facility types that were shown. Like I had mentioned, the other ones on the fence for walking were sidewalks, neighborhood greenways, and better lighting. And for bicycling, the one on the fence were the neighborhood greenways also. So connections to recreational areas, including Honeyman, resorts in Westlake and North Beach, were expressed as the desired locations to walk and bicycle to. So with that, get into the potential route options. And so these are based off of, well, in the survey we asked on all the facility types where respondents would like these facilities. So there were some clear winners in there. And then the last one wasn't specifically mentioned by anyone in the survey, but it was brought to my attention, and based on the response, it would be a supported facility type. So the number one response for where to put these facilities is between Westlake and North Beach. So it gets back to when I noticed that lack of connection between here and there. And so this is just a line on a map. It's not saying this is where it has to go by any means. It was just, it was mentioned that perhaps along the lake, and I seem to think, sure, that sounds like a lovely place to walk or bike, right? It might not be, you know, well, I'll get into the feasibility, but basically, just right here is another potential alignment which might be more feasible, or you might be able to do both. And then on this map, I've highlighted Petersdorf and Bird Park and Camp Baker, a couple other amenities that it was mentioned, you know, perhaps connecting things to walk and bicycle too. So if you have this like network, you're gonna get more people, I think, and you're connecting amenities, and that was mentioned, and that's a theme across a lot of places, and something that, you know, you don't just want to put a path in the middle of nowhere, like you want to connect things, right? So I just wanted to highlight those on the same map there, since they are in the same view. The next, second most popular response, let me just make sure I got everything on the last slide. Yeah, good. Second, I'd say second most popular response to where were along Canary Road bridges, the easier access to Honeyman. As I mentioned, Honeyman was mentioned as a desired place to walk and bicycle to. So these bridges and road connect straight to Honeyman. And this is the current condition. You have a great amenity here with a separated, protected walkway. I don't know, as a bicyclist, this might be, you know, if you're right here, you might not go over there, you might just stay in that shoulder. But then, as a pedestrian, you're put onto that shoulder, and that might not be the most comfortable place to walk, especially where I believe the speed limit there is higher. 45, yeah, that's what I thought. So that's could be intimidating place to walk. And you can see this pedestrian didn't even bother. So here's just highlighting the zoomed out picture overhead of the three bridges that lead up to this fantastic pedestrian bicycle bridge over Highway 101, which is a huge amenity. And just thinking about the connectivity, you know, like, is it very obvious for people to get to this bridge? Could it be, right? So I think, I mean, I've been out 4 or 5 times now, and I think perhaps better wayfinding signage, or actually maybe a protected facility that gets you there. I mean, so Honeyman was listed as the #1 place respondents wanted to walk or bike. So this is just, to me, a possible, and it was mentioned Canary Road. So that's highlighting that. We'll get into the feasibility, but this one, just to note, is outside of the urban growth boundary of the city. So a lot of these will take coordination with other partners, with the county, possibly with Honeyman on this one. Move along to connections between Westlake and North Beach. So this is Foothill Drive, where it dead ends currently. Does the same as, you know, on South Pioneer. And this is thinking about, just go to this. So this is more of that, what's actually, the Chet's Trail was mentioned a lot, and I've spoken with LCOG, and this is not the exact alignment, but close. And yeah, just showing this possible connection. It could take a lot of different forms. It could take that bicycle boulevard. It could be a road and have a path along the side. But just, calling attention to that. One other thing that came to my attention thinking about relating my work in disaster planning is that if this, if something should happen on Highway 101, having another route is also very important. So there could be thinking about different pots of funding, thinking about hazard planning and connectivity there. There could be some money in a non-traditional transportation pot, basically, or grant. And yeah, just thinking about that one neighborhood greenway facility was on the fence, so this could be like a really slow traffic street that prioritizes bicyclists and pedestrians. So there's a lot of different forms that connection I think could take. So this is the last one, which was not mentioned specifically by anyone on the survey, but it was mentioned to me. So this is just at the end of the street here. You have this lovely boardwalk overlook, and then just thinking about possibly connecting it all the way to that's Hemlock Street, I believe, right? And thinking about, let me catch up on my notes. Extending that and adding maybe another overlook. You have, the lovely amenity of the river there, and having a nice walkway would be supported again by the off-street paths, walkways. So with that, I just wanted to show a couple examples. The top two are from Florence, so very local. This one's actually Honeyman Boardwalk. Informational signage is nice, seating. This down here is not a local example, but just to get the wheels turning on a path, bicycle pedestrian path along a lake. So next steps, the most important part. So determining the feasibility. So like I said, I've done some preliminary work on this with LCOG and talking to Fred as well. It doesn't seem like, nothing's probably ruled out yet. Some are going to be easier than others. Some are going to take longer than others. Some, but basically this whole thing really sets the stage and you have something in place so you can think about what the long-term vision is and start looking at money, funding, etc. So the first is different bicycle and pedestrian path alignment options between Westlake and North Beach, connecting the roadway between Foothill Drive and South Pioneer Road, and just a footnote saying possibly negotiating with the county to connect any path between Westlake and North Beach to the Hilltop neighborhood and the Petersdorf and Burke Parks. Improving pedestrian and bicycle connections along Canary Road bridges, extended walkway with more overlooks along Siltgoose River between Spruce and Hemlock Street. So how to proceed? I have looked at a lot of bicycle pedestrian plans, and I think you're in a unique situation here, like a bicycle pedestrian plan for Eugene, for Seattle, for Portland is totally different than Dune City would be. I think this is the first step, really, and really you wouldn't, I don't think, need to create, you can build upon this, basically, is what I'm saying. I think this can be added to. It's kind of like a living document that you can add some of the other key elements, and I think a couple of those elements are a vision statement and goals. Really important to be able to check back to your vision and your goals and make sure everything you're doing aligns with the decided vision and goals. And I just encourage to think about how that process looks and Some places, it's a very public process. It just really depends on your community, I think. And then really getting to the prioritization of phasing, prioritization and phasing, a bicycle pedestrian plan or adding to this needs assessment will get you there. And really cost and funding, that's a big big element that will help with the prioritization and funding as a next step on how to proceed. So that brings us to the end. Yeah, shaved 5 minutes off of that. Good. More time for questions, discussion. Thanks to Dune City, to Fred, to Council and Road Commission. Had a lovely experience. You provided me a lot of great experience, and I hope I've provided you a little something as well to build off of. And I'm not leaving. I still have another year in grad school, and hopefully I'll stick around the Northwest, which is why I came back here in the first place. And thanks to LCOG and Public Works, Jacob Callister, who's actually a graduate of my program at UO, and Sarah Wilkinson, who I don't think I've met in person, but I've email exchanged with, who provided a lot of information for me, and really everyone, the public, council, anyone who took the survey and participated in this process. It wouldn't really have been possible at all without them, so thank you. And there's my contact information if you want to follow up with me at all. I'm available. With that, I'll sit in front of the mic or sit here, wherever is best, and we can talk and ask questions.
Okay, council, does anyone have questions or comments? I have a comment. Thank you so much. This was very comprehensive. I can tell you put a lot of hard work into it, and we appreciate your time very, very much.
Good.
So-
Well, thank you again for providing me the opportunity. It's been great.
Yeah. So, Fred, do you have a
I just have a
question?
comment, Mayor, if I might.
Certainly.
Ross has been an absolute pleasure to work with. And from the beginning in February, when we did the orientation on a Saturday, that was pretty much an all-day event, and it was a great way to kick off this experience for Ross. I worked with, over the years, a lot of interns, and in these kinds of processes, and the level of document, one of the comments one of the things I wanted to explain is the document that's in the council packets, including the public version of the council packet, is his full needs assessment report. It's very thorough and detailed. It includes lots of charts and graphs. It's honestly at a level of someone, in my opinion, who has 7 to 10 years of professional experience. So for an intern to be able to produce this kind of material for Dune City, I think is just incredible. So thank you.
You're here.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the online survey and how you put that together so quickly, and it was very comprehensive.
Great.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Well done.
I guess I did good.
Yeah, you,
You know,
yeah.
I didn't leave any questions remaining.
No, it was a really well done report. Very thorough.
Very
Very
nice.
easy to read, read.
Good. Well, I'll just be excited, and I'm here to help with any next steps that are needed. Been mentioned I can put together like a feasibility memo with some of the information that I've received from Lane Council governments, highlighting those 4 main categories, and talk about more information. There is more information that Jake provided me that I think it would be useful to have in a cohesive document, and that can be added to this document. So that's one thing that I think I can provide. I've mentioned to Fred, I'd be really curious, to look at the costs and things. I personally, can do research, but I think perhaps LCOG or someone who's done a lot of projects, it might be a lot quicker for them to just say, oh, well, here's the range on a project like that. But perhaps like this feasibility memo, I think could help highlight some of the issues with the connections between Westlake and North Beach. You have some wetlands. I think it's all permitted, but having it, you know, in a form to be able to show, you know, well, here it's that, yeah, we know that these are the issues, and we've addressed, you know, the code says it's okay to do that. But then, yeah, I think another element is looking at, after that, looking at, you know, how much cement or whatever it's going to take, and the cost of doing those things. So, but yeah, I think it's a great first step to, you know, have something on the shelf to pull down when you see a grant or an opportunity. You know, the balls are the chains are moving, or whatever the phrase is. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Just one other comment, Mayor. We have, basically, we have approval from the Road Commission and kind of pseudo approval from the City Council to have Ross on the intern program through fall term of this current year that we're going into. And so we'll be working through these kinds of questions and issues during that time, as well as the possibility of having Ross assist us with our sign. We're under federal requirements now by the Federal Transportation Group to have a sign inventory and reflectivity management program as a municipality, and that's a kind of a pretty substantial undertaking. And well, that's our Public Works Director, Contract Public Works Director Gary Baker is going to help kind of oversee that, spearhead it. Ross might be able to assist with that as an intern also.
Great.
So his name won't go away, at least in the near term.
Great.
I hope not.
Good. You know, one thing I just would like to ask is, one of the components of this follow-up document that you're proposing to provide, will it have potential sources of funding avenues, do you think?
Yeah, it can, and actually the Beyond, I think it's the Beyond Road section of the Master Transportation Plan actually has some as well. So there's a starting point there, but there are certainly possible new ones that I can look into. And again, that's, I think, you know, LCOG's been very kind to talk to me, and they know a lot of this stuff, you know, by the back of their hand, because that's what they do all the time. So yeah, I think, I mean, that's a very important next step for sure. But yeah, I think it was somewhere in here. I know I saw there were in the Master Transportation Plan there is a start of like different avenues for
funding options for funding, potential funding options for the non-motorized element of the Master Transportation Plan.
But there are more and more these days. I mean, it's a very popular trend, bicycling and pedestrian as a form of transportation and recreation these days, and there are numbers of organizations that are working towards this, and I think I'm hopeful there will be more monies for communities to utilize.
Councilor Mills?
As I understand, sometimes the money is tied to a requirement that you actually have a master plan for bikes and pedestrian trails. And do we have anything currently?
You know, there's a non-motorized element, which is bicycles and pedestrians, in the Master Transportation Plan, the one that was just recently adopted. So the answer to your question is yes. This really was a key piece of kind of supporting that element of the Master Transportation Plan, was getting this needs assessment done in preparation for the potential funding that might be available to us to do those things. The other thing I want to just comment on is we have a 1% set aside as part of our ODOT apportionment that we get every month that's required to be used for bicycle and pedestrian paths. And that's been one of the comments in all of our audits over the last few years, is that we either need to use that money because it's got kind of a pending timeline on it, or lose it. The other option would be to request an exemption based on some kind of a needs assessment that said we didn't need bicycle or pedestrian paths. So, you know, whichever way we go, this seemed to be the logical first step, so.
And the funding for Ross's contract was from that 1%, correct?
That's correct.
Oh, Councilor Mills, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I was gonna say the same thing.
Oh.
But, so in my mind then, the next step for us as a city council is to discuss which of the projects we may wanna pursue, right? Am I getting that right?
I would also think about the vision and goal statements, and having leadership decide how is best and what, you know, your top maybe 3 goals are, or thinking about that. I'd say that might be important as well. So kind of have something to go back to and say, you know, this is our vision for this. But I guess I just I mean, yeah, if I had to recommend one, you know, the North Beach to Westlake was pretty popular, but it might be that this potential extended boardwalk is the easiest thing, is the low-hanging fruit or something, and you know, so it might just make sense, let's just do that and it's a start, versus this project that could take, you know, a lot of years, and it might be smart to just get the easy ones completed, so.
Okay.
So then, in the final, I guess the wrap-up would be, is this something we need to schedule a special meeting for, to discuss? After we get the document from him, is that the way that we're gonna pursue it?
We could do that, or we could ask for a recommendation from the road commission and, you know, let them hash it over for a while and see what they're gonna come up with.
See if they make a recommendation? That's a good idea, I like that.
Let them do that.
Okay, I was just trying
I
to
think
get.
Councilor Anderson had a question too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know, not sure it's appropriate for now, but we've talked for years and years about Chet's Trail and its potential. Are we getting any further along?
Well, yeah, Chet's Trail is an interesting thing. It was platted as part of, I believe, the the original Silk Coos Lake Club plat that was done, I believe, in the 50s originally. And it was put on there, but it was never, it was marked on the maps, but it was never dedicated to the public or surveyed or any of that. So the answer to your question is yes, we're a lot farther down the line in knowing what Chet's Trail is and what it is not. And as Ross pointed out during his presentation, if Chet's Trail were to be pursued as part of the connectivity between Westlake and North Beach areas of Dune City, it's going to require coordination with Lane County and a whole lot of work. But it's still, in my opinion, one of the best opportunities for the city. But again, it's really a council decision, and I think Council President Mills is right on in suggesting that either we have some kind of a special session or discussion at the council level and make a recommendation to ask the road commission for a recommendation or whatever. Kind of the reason I didn't get too worried about getting too far into that tonight is I would really like to have the 2 absent councilors present for that discussion, especially since one of them is the road commission chairman.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, I don't know, is Chet's Trail an actual footpath that goes through there now, or is it just a designated line on a map?
It's just a designated line on a
So
map.
there's never been
It's never been any kind of a dedication.
machete hack out.
Oh, but I'm sure at one time there was some kind of a path that went across there. Before 1964, when International Paper was given permission, was granted a water right on Silk Coos Lake and given permission to put the dam on the Silk Coos River, that whole point that shows as a grassy area on the map that Ross had up on the screen would become dry land, and it was pasture grazing area for the Christensen family, and I believe several others. So I'm sure at one time there has been some kind of a path across there
Oh.
and became named Chet's Trail. but there was never anything formally platted other than a line on a map.
Okay, good to know. All right. Any further questions, counselors? Once again, thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and your friend, thank you for bringing her along too.
She drove, so. Great.
All right.
Okay, well, I look forward to continuing working on this with y'all. I'll
Absolutely.
work with Brad in the road commission and we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ross.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Mhm. Okay, we are at agenda item 9. Pardon
Question
me?
from the audience.
Just want to know how you get a copy of the final report.
Right there?
It's in the
Just grab it.
packet. Yeah, right here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Incidentally, hard copies of Ross's presentation can be made available too.
Yeah.
Ross's preference and my personal preference in making preparations is typically not to provide, as you well know, not to provide the document in advance because it can create distractions. So I know this was kind of an unusual case where you had the full detailed report in your packet and Ross was giving you kind of a summarization of that.
Mhm.
I noticed some of you looking for the slides that he was presenting, but anyway, a hard copy of his presentation is available if anybody would like one.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ad hoc committee, Fred, could we maybe get a report status on that unfinished?
Sure. Yeah, I spoke with Councilor Anderson today. My schedule has just precluded the ability to schedule any further meetings on this.
Oh,
My intention is to meet late in August with Councilor Anderson, Council President Mills, and perhaps the mayor.
okay. We can do that.
Obviously want to avoid a quorum. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Ad hoc committee, I would imagine,
On the
Councilor
septic
Wells
education
is-
program, well, Councilor Wells gave his final report, but one of the things that I neglected to make sure got done after that final report, because his recommendation was that the actual education program should be transferred to the Communication and Education Committee. And that was never done. So what we need, in my opinion, what we need to do to continue this is we either need to close out this ad hoc committee by motion of the council, or we need to transfer the responsibility for the septic education program ad hoc committee to the chairman of the Communication and Education Committee.
okay. Counselor Mills?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would move to close out the ad hoc committee on the septic education program and refer the septic education program to the Communication and Education Committee.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Any discussion, counselors?
Makes sense.
No, I can recognize that now at this point. Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay.
No, I'll just go on the record because I wanted to hear from Susie before, and I forgot to mention it.
We're in the middle of
Yeah.
the motion, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna allow that. So,
Can I get a recount on the vote? How many
Certainly.
ayes?
all those in favor of the motion?
I guess we had 3 ayes and 1 nay. I thought I heard unanimous to start with. So we have three ayes and 1 nay, Council President Mills being the nay.
Okay,
Okay,
all right,
to make the motion.
okay.
No, you don't want it?
No, you pushed the button, it's not shutting down.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll acknowledge that one, and I'm ready to do that. Thank you. Ms. DeVetta, do you have a question or a comment
I do,
on the subject?
I do.
Okay. Would you
you-
please come forward?
Yeah.
time in on that committee and working with Counselor Wells, and I appreciate it.
Well, it was a good committee,
Mhm.
and the thing that concerns me about it is now you close this committee who never saw any minutes, ever. How can you have a committee and have no minutes and no minutes?
We have reports.
Pardon me?
We have reports to the council.
Well, we take minutes at a meeting. It's required that we take minutes at a meeting. And I never approved any minutes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay,
That was very satisfactory.
unfinished business C, medical marijuana dispensary moratorium. Jamie, you have a report from the ordinance review committee?
Yes, I do. The ordinance review committee met on Monday, but we are awaiting, the document, the proposed document was submitted to legal counsel, so we're awaiting a response from legal counsel. So that's where we're at, we're still waiting.
Okay. Fred, do you have any further follow-up?
Yeah, well, basically, my direction to the city attorney was that this was not a big priority, but at the same time, we wanted to try to get it on the agenda for review or some kind of evaluation in September.
Okay.
So I would expect that we should have something for the ordinance review committee within a week or two from the city attorney.
Okay, thank you. So perhaps by next council meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to new business, City Hall Week hosted by League of Oregon Cities. And that's in the session packet.
We had two pieces of information on this, Mayor. One was the document that came from the League of Oregon Cities, and on page 2, it shows at the very bottom, the meeting in Yachats on September 9th. Basically, that will include Coos Bay, Depot Bay, Dune City, Falls City, Florence, Lakeside, Lincoln City, Newport, North Bend, Reedsport, Sheridan, Siletz, Toledo, Walport, and Yachats. So it's really a good opportunity, in my opinion, for the council and staff to get exposure and not only be able to talk about some of the key legislative issues that are before the League of Oregon Cities or that the League of Oregon Cities is working on, but also a good opportunity to do some networking. So we also received a piece of correspondence from the mayor of Yachats, Ronald Green, and basically it was a personalized invitation to Yachats to attend that meeting. So I would encourage all of you to RSVP, and if you want to copy me on your RSVP, that would be fine. I'm just curious who plans to attend. I know that at this time, I have not heard from Councilor Wells. Councilor Sanders does plan to attend. Councilor Meyer plans to attend, and I haven't heard from any of the other council, but it would obviously be advantageous to carpool. I plan to attend. So I think there's a good opportunity there, and I would encourage everybody to participate. It's, you know, a relatively short event, starting at 12 p.m. with lunch included. How can you beat that?
And it's only like 30 minutes away.
And yeah, so I think that's a really good opportunity.
Okay. What's the deadline for letting them know?
You know, the deadline is actually, yeah,
Did you say?
August 25th.
August 25th.
there was a, yeah.
I never want to. Okay.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Thank you. Okay. Any further comments or questions, councilors? No? Okay. League of Oregon Cities, item B, League of Oregon Cities 89th Annual Conference is September 25 through 27. And I've looked at the schedule. I think I'd like to attend Friday session. So, you know, you can attend any day, counselors, if you are interested in that. So review the agenda and see what they got going on, see if you're interested in going to any of that. Fred, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, it's you know, it's a really good opportunity. It's close. The annual conference is not very often held in a convenient location for us. As early as the program starts, it's a tough commute, daily commute for anybody, including me, because I'm not a regularly riser. But I do plan on attending, since where the office is closed on Friday, I do plan on attending the Friday sessions.
Yeah, starting at 9 o'clock.
Again, this is a really good opportunity for everybody to get some exposure to the league.
Okay, well, you know, we'll put them in here to offer, you know, opportunities for communicating, so no pressure. Okay, septic maintenance history and status report. Mr. Hilton?
Well, this was actually a report that I prepared for July 19th presentation to the Wohink Lake Association at their request at their annual picnic at the West Wohink Lake Meeting Facility. And I had originally kind of intended to present it tonight because I thought it might be good to get it on video record for the whole community. But at the same time, we had Ross's presentation tonight, and I'm kind of presented out. So if the council doesn't mind, I would take questions on the report tonight, or if you would like to see the report in presentation format, I would be happy to do that at the September meeting.
What's the pleasure? I think since we've got some absent counselor, it might be nice to have it next month. You want to do that? Okay. How about if we put it on the agenda? Let's just
Okay.
table it till the next
All right.
agenda. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy, did you have a question on that?
I did have a question.
Okay.
This 645 on the cumulative 2014, does that take into effect, I mean, does that take into account the alternative systems?
Yes.
It does? So,
Well,
I was under the impression that there were about 36 or 39 that were still needed to be,
lakefront properties.
lakefront properties. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And that's obviously our focus.
Right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Priority. Ordinance Review Committee has an appointment. We have an opening on the committee, and we have an applicant.
You sound surprised.
No, I'm not surprised. He's a very diligent volunteer for Dune City. All right, so we have Mr. Steve Burton as our applicant for the Ordinance Review Committee, and I would entertain a motion for his appointment. Councilor Mills?
I would move to appoint Steve Burton to the Ordinance Review Committee.
Okay,
I would second it.
all right. Any discussion? Hearing,
In a second.
yeah?
Yeah, thank you.
And any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, Mr. Burton, you're on target. One final comprehensive plan update. Councilor Mills.
As you will recall, the task that the council sent to the Ordinance Review Committee was to basically come up with a task list, a to-do list of who should do what. And in the process, all right, so some of you don't know me very well, but most of you do know that I've got this thing about being really, really organized. And not at home, mind you, but here when it comes to Dune City. And part of the responsibility of a city council in doing it is master plan, there's comprehensive plan, excuse me, is to meet the statewide planning goals. I mean, that is what they're doing. Well, in trying to wrap my hands around this whole issue on the comp plan, I went out and read or looked at a whole bunch of comp plans from other cities. And I ran across Oregon City's comprehensive plan. You'll see a section of it in here, which is actually based basically on the statewide planning goals. So it addresses goal 1 and goal 2 and goal 3 and goal 4. And to me, that is way more organized and easy to understand and easy to compare your code with the comp plan in that fashion. So, but I can't make that much decision on my own. So I brought it to you tonight because, and in the handout, you'll see the first part of the handout talks about how our code is, how our comprehensive plan is currently outlined and organized, although I never could find an actual chapter 4 anywhere title. And then the next section is the Oregon statewide planning goals and how they are organized. And the question becomes, in my mind, do we want to go with a full rewrite of the comprehensive plan, or do we want to stay with what we've got and try to make it work? Not that it doesn't work. Our comprehensive plan meets all the requirements it needs to meet, and it addresses everything it needs to address. It just doesn't, in my mind, do it in a way that's easy to find and compare. So what I'd just like to hear everybody else's thoughts on this. I am concerned that people will be, the public will be very concerned that, oh, they're throwing out the whole thing and all this. And that's not the plan. The idea would be to take what we've got and fit it into this other organization and bring it up to date.
Comments? When you suggested that, I went through and read the entire comprehensive plan, Oregon Cities, and it was very easy to read. It just flowed, and the language was good. It just was a very, very nice one, and I can see why that one stood out to you when you were perusing all of them. So, in an ideal world, it would be nice to have ours read that easily. And that's my comment. So, did anyone else have a chance to read that? Did you? So I think it's worth looking at.
And so the recommendation from the Ordinance Review Committee is,
Okay.
if we choose to go that way, then we came up with a to-do list of who should probably deal with what issues and what topics.
Sections?
Yeah.
So is it the recommendation of the Ordinance Review
Yeah, it is the recommendation of the Ordinance Review Committee that we go with.
that we pattern our comprehensive
On
plan?
the statewide planning goals, and after the Oregon City model, if you will, using them as a model. And I started to do a breakdown the other way, but it got really difficult to figure out how to break that down, because it would mean, the only one that was easy was the one that we already assigned, which is to water quality about natural resources. That one was easy. It was easy to point out, it was easy to find.
And the transportation piece to the road.
Well, yeah, and the transportation, yeah. Other than that, the rest of it is all, we'd have to all sit in a room together and do it. That's the only way I could see the way it could get done.
Wow, yeah.
So.
Councilor Strawberry has a question or?
I think it's a good idea to talk about. I think we need to wait though until we've got full council.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
I agree. Yes, most definitely.
And it may take, many discussions, so.
Mhm.
All right.
Can I ask
Thank you
a
for that.
question
Councilor.
of Council President Mills?
Mhm.
Jamie, how do you, I'm having trouble with the vision of trying to get my hands around how we take the current document and take the text that we feel is appropriate to keep, which, let's just assume it's all of it. So how do we take the current document and restructure that text into this format. I'm having a little trouble getting my head around that.
May I?
Yeah,
Okay. That's why each goal would be assigned to a particular committee or a person or something, so that they could go through our current comprehensive plan and pull out all those statements that talk about that particular issue. We have all, as a council, have read the comprehensive plan on more than one occasion
Right.
and have gone through it, page by page. So, it's not really as bad as all that. Don't roll your eyes. It's not that bad. But bear in mind, something that doesn't show up on what we handed out tonight is that at the end of every section, at the end of goal 1, at the end of goal 2, at the end of goal 3, they would put policies. They would say their policies and goals or something like that. Policies and so every single section had that statement. We want, for example, we don't want to have smaller than 1 acre parcels in our town. Those kind of policies, statements would still be at the end. And that really is the big meat of the comprehensive plan, is to have those statements carried over.
Okay. Thank you.
what I would envision, as I was reading through this and thinking about, as I was reading, I was thinking how we could do what you just said. And the way I thought is we could use the Oregon City's plan as just, for example, like here on the table of contents, statements of principle, and then just go find the statements of principle in our plan. And then going down where it talks about section 2 land use, we take whatever our section of land use is and plug it in there. And 3, agriculture. Just kind of use theirs as a model to rearrange
The elements of our current.
the elements of our current plan. And where theirs, like she was saying, you'd have to read theirs in order to
I did.
understand, what the benefits would be, I guess. So it's something to talk about.
I think it's a good idea. Jamie asked me what my opinion was in an email, and I said I think it's a good idea. I just have this technical issue with some of the logistics of exactly making it happen, especially when we've had difficulty even getting the update that was accomplished by ordinance 223 into the current comprehensive plan.
Okay, all right, well,
Well, thank you.
any more comments about this? Because
So this will go back on the September agenda, is that what I'm hearing, for more discussion? Okay.
yeah. I'd like to hear you report on that one too. Okay, well, yeah, where's my agenda? Oh, okay, I guess we are now up to reports. Were there any further comments follow up to that comprehensive plan? Okay. All right, we'll move along to committee reports. My report this evening is I attended the Oregon Mayor's Conference, the annual conference held in Pendleton this year. They were a very hospitable city. They treated us very well. We toured their underground city. We had a little mock rodeo, and we helped them unveil a statue in their downtown tourism area. And the mayor, Phil Houck, was very gracious, and the meat of the meetings were very good. There was many representatives from governor's office there, and we had roundtable discussions with different elements of the governor's regimen, and very, very well attended. There was 93 Oregon mayors attending, and 13 mayors had a scholarship, and I was a fortunate recipient of one of the scholarships. So it kind of adds up to how many cities don't have tax bases, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I kind of put that connection there. And all in all, it was a very good conference, very hot over there. And one of the things that I took away from that conference was what a good job Pendleton has done at branding their city. When you see their logo, the horse that bucks, I mean, and then they've got the Let Her Buck slogan, and everything in their whole town really patterns after that brand. And it was quite interesting. They told the historical origination of how that came from grassroots efforts to be, their brand. And so they were encouraging other cities to, try to do that also. So food for thought, very good conference. That's my report. Okay. Communication and education.
I understand we have another report coming out in November. Is that another?
Well, that's kind of the target.
Kind of the target. So if there's anything that needs to be included from you all,
Okay, already? Okay.
I need to hear about that.
Because it takes us 2 months to get it out of there,
It
right?
takes a little while to
Okay.
get that out of there.
Okay, you're on notice, everybody.
That's actually 5 months from the last one. So if you're going to do 3 a year, you should do one every 4 months. So
Okay. All right.
That's it.
Anything else? Oh, okay. Counselor Mills, ordinance review.
The ordinance review committee met on Monday, and so at the time of writing my report, we hadn't met yet. We did discuss the shared domestic water supply ordinance, the draft marijuana dispensary ordinance, and the development of a task assignment list for the comprehensive plan review. And another meeting is not currently scheduled at this time.
Okay.
Here, if you guys send something back, if we send something back. Water quality
Water quality.
did not meet in July because I was ill, and so the next meeting is August 20th at 3 p.m. here at City Hall.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. And Counselor Walden is absent. Counselor Anderson.
Yes, we have no reports of any conservation problems or anything in
That need our
the
attention.
lake and so forth.
Well, thank you then. Counselor Scarberry.
We did not meet last month. We have a meeting planned for next week on Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Sanders is absent. Mr. Hilden, emergency services report.
thank you, Mayor. I attended the West Lane Emergency Operations Group meeting on July 21st representing Dune City. Basically, the focus, aside from the fact that we approved this year's fiscal budget and got the resolution passed, which is obviously a key portion of any board's responsibilities, Chief Langborg has, since he came on board as our new fire chief for Siuslaw Valley Fire and Rescue, has expressed concerns both publicly and privately about how the Emergency Operations Center would be enacted and who's responsible for what, recognizing that typically when you look at how the EOC is structured to go into effect, many of the people who are planned to be part of the Emergency Operations Center, recognizing if we were to have a serious disaster like a tsunami that took out the bridge or something like that, you would attempt to have a person that would be the incident commander, and that's always been assumed to be the fire chief. You would have a planning group that would trying to orchestrate all of the planning needs for putting together the tools and resources that we're going to be required to do this, to deal with this disaster. You would have a finance group who was going to make sure we kept track of all of the proper reports and information regarding the volunteers' time and resource utilization so that we could get federal reimbursement, because without proper tracking of that, you'll get not a penny. And you'd have the operations group and so on and so forth. When you look at the organizational chart, I'm designated as a liaison for Dune City. But when you get right, and that would require me to be at the fire station. And when you get right down to it, chances are the reality of that happening is pretty slim. That you would be able to draw on all of these resources from the City of Florence, the fire department, and so on and so forth, their administrative staff and personnel who make up this list of people that make up these groups that I was just talking about. So Chief Langborg has really done, I think, a commendable job of pointing out the weakness in our current strategy and focused a lot of energy on trying to help us understand what we need to do to fix that. So that's kind of where we're headed right now.
May I ask?
Sounds like our speaker issue is coming
Yeah,
back.
certainly. Councilor Mills?
As part and parcel to that, is he making recommendation that Dune City have its own plan in the event the bridge goes out?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you.
I mean, we're developing that, and I see that falling out of it, Jamie. We're having an executive session on Monday morning before the normal regular WELOG meeting. So that basically is my report for this month, and I'll keep you informed as we progress on that. I think this is really a valuable exercise.
I think, Chief Langborg has offered to come to our council meetings on a very regular basis and give us reports. So I think it's about time for an update, and maybe if you would carry this message back to him, let's have him come at his pleasure.
Okay.
And give us, a 15-minute update on what,
How he sees things.
his wish list would be, and then perhaps how he could, help us organize that. Yeah, go ahead.
He is still basing it on NIMS, right? The federal?
Yes.
Okay. Have you taken the course?
No.
Okay. It's not that hard.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I've insisted that I stay as nothing more than liaison at this point, because I have not been able to complete any of the courses. So.
Well, I'm certified NIMS, and I'm sure Maury is too. So.
Yeah.
Good.
We're covered. Only for home.
Only we're home. Okay. Your second report?
Thank you, Mayor.
Sir? Mhm.
July permit activity remained high with 12 permits including two structural, one right-of-way vegetation removal, 8 electrical permits, and 1 more new home.
Wow.
So we continue on a new home rampage, and I think that's great. It's kind of a strong indicator to me that people are realizing that Dune City is a nice place to live. We're continued on 1 subdivision application. Copies of permits to Lane County and Lane Council of Governments continue on schedule. There were 3 complaints filed in July. A pet came up missing on Parkway Drive, and unfortunately that complaint was closed with no action because there really is nothing we could do about that relative to enforcement. It is a reminder that we live with wildlife. There was a neighborly complaint and a resident that has an issue with her cable provider, who would be Charter. And as you know, Charter recently went through a digital upgrade, and while that might have been a pretty smooth process for residents, it was a nightmare for resorts and people that have multiple cable connections within their facility. So anyway, moving on, I'm very excited to announce that at the July 24th meeting, the Planning Commission approved the final plat submittal for the 2 Puzzle Forest partitions, including acceptance of a new city street, Dunebray Lane. This was a project on Clear Lake Road that was a result of more than a year of planning and hard work by Gordon and Lori Robertson. So my hat's off to them. They did a beautiful job. It's a beautiful project, and it'd be a nice addition of turning 2 tax lots into 6 tax lots that are all buildable. They all have been approved for septic, and they all have South Coast Water District water at the site, at the lot. So that final plat, those 2 final plats were approved. Also at that meeting, the Planning Commission appointed a citizen advisory committee to review the septic system maintenance ordinance number 203. The charter was for the CAC to meet weekly with a target date for their input to the Planning Commission of September 18th. The Planning Commission completed their review of Chapter 151, the building code section of our land use code, and continues their review of the city's attorney's comments on 155 zoning and development. That's going very smoothly. I think it'll take probably one or two more special sessions at the most. The 2014 street maintenance projects have been another major effort by staff this month as we move forward with Johnson Rock Products and their subcontractor scheduled to complete the slurry sealing of Lakeshore Drive, Leanza Drive, Siltcoos Drive, Siltcoos Terrace, Osprey Way, Spruce Lane, Catich, Maple Street, and Laguna Avenue during this week. And in fact, on Monday, Leanza, Lakeshore, Siltcoos Drive, Siltcoos Terrace, and the portion of Spruce Lane between Siltcoos Drive and Siltcoos Terrace were successfully slurry sealed, and the work looks really, really good. In fact, it's already been accepted by both our city engineer inspector and our contract director of public works. We had bad weather obviously on Tuesday and had to cancel the Tuesday and Wednesday schedule, which were the balance of these streets. And we've got them currently scheduled for tomorrow. So those streets will all be, the remaining streets, which include the remaining portion of Spruce Lane, Osprey Way, Catich Drive, Maple Street, and Laguna Avenue will be closed from early tomorrow morning. And I'm going to guess that because it's cool, we're going to end up needing to keep them closed for 24 hours. As I mentioned earlier, I gave a presentation to the Wohig Lake Association at their summer potluck on July 19th on the history and status of compliance with our septic ordinance. The report was very well received, and there was a good exchange of questions and answers. I had a great time at the picnic and was treated very well. It was a great group, so I really enjoyed doing that. Staff has invoiced water right administrative fees to 130 residents who draw water from Wohig Lake. The payments have been returning steadily. We've had an unusually large amount of visitors to City Hall asking for information about the Oregon Dunes and camping this year. So the fact that we allocate a fair amount of administrative wages to the motel fund really should be well acknowledged this summer and this fiscal year. The winter issue of our newsletter hopefully will be coming out in November, so please keep newsletter articles in mind for this issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's one more item.
There is. Mayor Reedy announced at the last council meeting that beginning this month, we would be providing monthly fund balance data. And I'm pleased to present that information to the council tonight. This is kind of a combination. It's very much in the format that you would find a balance sheet, a financial statement balance sheet. So it includes, for example, a listing of assets and liabilities and equity, which is what you normally find on a balance sheet. To explain what you're looking at, obviously the left column is a description of what the line items are. The first column to the right of that is the balance effect on June 30th of 2013, and this is straight from our audit that was completed in February of this year and reported at the February 29th Budget Committee meeting. So the checking account balance is showing, the money market balance is showing, the total bank account balance is showing, and the breakdown of those dollar amounts by fund are shown in the liabilities and equity. They're all equity, obviously. There are no liabilities, if you're wondering. The city has no liabilities other than our current bills of the session. By charter, we're not allowed to incur debt, so in excess of $10,000. So anyway, so that's basically straight out of the audit report, the fund balances that were reported on February 29th. The next two columns are the revenue and expense in each of those account activity or account areas for the 2013-2014 fiscal area. And the right-hand column is the calculated balance as of July 1, 2014, based on that information. As you can see, the general fund dropped, and that's largely the result of the legal expenses, unanticipated overrun in legal expenses that we had associated with the city attorney's review of our land use code. And we, the council, approved the $15,000 move from contingency to legal during the June council meeting. You can see the buildings codes fund actually bumped up about $1,000 during the fiscal year. The state street fund increased a little, almost $5,000, which is amazing in my opinion. The motel fund dropped a little bit, largely because we've been trying to spend some of the unallocated RTMP money, because if we don't spend that money, we lose it, and we've been behind and criticized by the auditor for that for the last 2 years. And water rights fund remained pretty much flat for the year. I think one of the things that was most interesting to me, and I know that popping this report on you at the last minute is difficult to look at the data and kind of conceptualize about it, but one of the things that really jumped off the page for me when I looked at this breakdown of revenue and expenses by fund was the fact that I had kind of been under the impression all along that the State Street Fund had the largest income for the city every year. And as you can see in the second column over, the revenue column for 2013-2014, the general fund revenue was actually $112,000, and the State Street Fund revenue was only $76,000, $77,000 rounding up. So the assumption I've had all this time was incorrect. So this data, and I know you'll want to spend some time with it, and you'll probably have more questions. If you have any questions right now, I'll be happy to address them. I apologize for the lateness of this data in terms of the mayor's request for it, but at the same time, I want to point out that essentially completing this information is what I have to do every year in preparation for the auditors, and recognize that that hasn't been completed until September or October in the recent 2 years. In fact, 2 years ago, it wasn't completed until December. So technically, we're way ahead of schedule. And I'm very pleased to be able to provide this information to the council. Thank you.
Well, that's just unexpected reward then, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you so much, because, you know, there's been a number of citizens that have really desired this, as well as myself, and I think, you know, hopefully the hard part's, you know, done, the very first one, and it'll be easy to kind of keep going, you know, this one-page thing. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
The undertaking, I know it was not small, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. And for those ladies sitting right there that helped you, so I appreciate that very much.
Couldn't do it without it.
No, I'm sure. So awesome. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Okay. Any questions, counselors? Okay. For the good of the order. Nothing from Counselor Scarborough?
No.
Okay.
Nothing here.
Okay. Okay. Letter Buck. It's from Pendleton.
Pendleton Roundup.
Yep. That's coming up in September. They asked us all to announce.
I think I recruited a triathlete
Oh.
from Nebraska while we were visiting in Yellowstone, because I was helping the wife put together a thing to push her kids around, because he was back in Nebraska running a triathlon.
Oh.
So I told her all about ours, and she said, "Oh, I think we're really going to come, so that'd be fun."
Good.
That would be great. Special
Of
guest.
course, Nebraska's where they think the big red N stands for knowledge, so.
Any further comments? No? Well, we're okay, we're good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. It is 8:30.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
We're adjourned, 8:30. Right on, straight up. Thank you, everyone.